Hello, welcome back to Female Voices Life and Loss. I'm Teresa Reiniger,
And I'm Wayna Berry.
and today we are so honored to be joined by Tabasha A. Davis, also known as Coach T. Tabasha is a certified life coach, motivational speaker, and community health leader with a deep passion for healing, empowerment, and building generational wealth. I love that. Her personal journey of grief, trauma, and resilience has shaped her calling to help others heal out loud and reclaim their power. She is the founder of, as you can see on her shirt if you're watching us on video, I Am Changing Life Coach Services, LLC, and the author of the Transformational Healing Workbook, Started from the Bottom, Now I'm Here. I love that. We're going to have to talk about that.
I
So,
love that. Oh, wow.
in this conversation, we're going to dive into her story, her passion for creating space for growth, and the tools she's developed to help others step into their own healing journey. So, Coach T, welcome to
Hi.
the episode.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity.
Yes, I love it. I'm going to tell the audience we talked just a few minutes before we started this recording, and we discovered in like a 3-minute conversation that Coach T and Coach T, Teresa, went to the same grade school. How cool is that?
Yes.
The things you discover when you just talk to people. So
Yeah. Teresa got some street cred off of Coach.
we're both Coach T.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
Coach
yeah,
and
yeah.
Coach T. I love it.
Coach
I
T
love
1
it.
and 2.
Yeah.
I do love that. Teresa's always like open wherever she goes. I don't know if you saw the Rich Mama's first networking event in April, and Teresa was there, right? And I said, Teresa, you got to get in the picture for our diversity credit because
Right.
Yeah.
she's the only Caucasian there, but she wasn't even fake. She's just talking to everybody, getting to know everybody. I want to learn, and I just love it. That's her spirit.
She
I
went
love
to
it.
school.
I did go to school in East St. Louis, so
Yeah.
I love it. There's no color to me, but I did tell Lavina maybe I should stand in the middle since I was the only white person.
That's why we love her, you know? Just roll, Teresa, just roll with it. I love it.
As you should. Don't stress it out.
Hmm.
So,
All right.
well, let's get started on this episode because I want to hear so much about you, Coach T. So, can you share a little bit about your personal journey, what experience, what the trauma, the grief? Because we've talked a little bit about that. You shared a little bit, but can you share with us kind of some of that personal journey that you've gone through? And then we're going to move into what you've done with all.
So my personal journey is I remember the first time experiencing death in a fashion where I can remember. And it was at my uncle's funeral. I had children at the time, and my grandmother approached me because I was about to lose it. I was a family member that was known for walking up to the casket straight in the floor. That's because I love my people. And I remember her telling me slightly, with a just slight voice, baby, with life comes death. It's all about the way you love the person while they're living. And I've held on to that all of my life. So it kind of makes me awkward at funerals because it is just a part of life that she introduced to me so softly that I was able to then have a healthy coping skill with it. Fast forward to 2022, well, 2021, funny story. My grandfather, not funny story, but funny story. My grandfather transitioned and he was going to turn 85 and he was not mobile at the time. And my mom was like, we're still going to have this party and we're going to prop you up in the window. And my grandma was like, I'm not having that party. The day before his birthday, he transitioned. And we was like, okay, tell us you really didn't want to have the party without telling us you didn't want to have the party. And we're standing outside and my granddad was seeing impaired, and we're standing outside and we hear a tree fall. And my sister yells out, "Granddad, heaven's the other way." So, like I
Like, that's
said,
his kinda spirit too. Was that his kinda spirit?
yes, listen, his nickname was Titty Baby. So, yes, that was his spirit. And I say that because in 2022, when my son transitioned on Easter and we came home and a tree branch had fallen out of the tree in front of my mom and my sister's house. So in my mind, I was thinking he was about to make the wrong turn and hit the tree branch and was able to go the right way. He was unalive in his home Easter morning, April 17th. I got the phone call at 2:06. So in my head, that's his transitional time. He was 27 years old, 11 months, 2 hours, and 6 minutes. The last place I seen him was at my relative's. My cousin, her son had transitioned from a car accident, and we were at his memorial. And ironically, she saw him the day before he was unalived. And that was in March. My son transitioned in April. From April to August, I lost 8 other relatives, being 2 cousins' wives, an uncle, the matriarch of my family who was 103, her body just gave up, and another cousin who just walked out the house and collapsed. In the midst of that, I was also losing close family members and friends and just people I had known, and people was trying to figure out why I wasn't losing my mind, and I would just have to tell them, 1, I was introduced to this in the softest manner that I could be, and 2, I was in therapy way before all of this happened. So I account that to having just great coping skills and learning to love on people as best as I can while they're here. Because this is a hard world. So job well done. That's all I can say for him.
Yeah, I know you mentioned coping skills, I had the coping skills. What are some of those? What would that look like to carry somebody through, so much loss up back to back?
Because I had such great coping skills, my family deemed me and another one of my cousins when anything happened in the family, well, call these two, and we were the ones who was getting funerals together because it had to be done, and we
Mhm.
did it in a manner where we didn't step on people's toes. We was very respectful of people's wishes to the point where we would have to tell people that that's not their wish. Um, my coping skill is God said, job well done. Who am I to argue with the creator? My coping skill is knowing that while they were living, I did my best to give them what I had and received what they had to give to me. So those are my coping skills. Because in my head, if we are in physical proximity to each other, I try not to say goodbye. I try to say see you later. When I greet people, I hug them. I know it throws people off. I'm a hugger. And when I leave people, I hug them and give them a kiss. So, and I'm constantly praying for everybody. My coping skill is just being the best person that I can be to them with with the knowledge that we was created on purpose with a purpose, and once he deem us done with our purpose, he says, "Job well done," and bring us back home.
Coping skill that you have is used prior to the loss
Correct.
that helps you with the loss.
Correct.
That's beautiful. In your coaching practice, you're supporting women, mothers. What would be some common themes you see in their healing journeys because they probably don't have the coping skills and you're coaching them maybe after?
Uh,
So do you do a lot of coaching of loss or where is all of the coaching that you do?
all over the place. It goes
Okay, okay,
from I want to have a better credit score so I can get a house to someone
okay.
knowing that my son transitioned and them being referred to me for that unfortunate situation. In the last 2 years, I've did more grieving programs and coaching and talking and just groups. Each person is different. And I realized that although we may have the same titles because society says because you carried this child, you are the mother, right? Or because you are the guardian to this child, you're the mom. But those titles don't come with directions or anything like that. So I have to be very careful and gentle when I'm talking to people because sometimes I discover that they're not even grieving. They're guilting of lack of something that they didn't do or something that they did that was not kind. Or the last word that I said to them was this, and this, and we didn't have the best relationship, this, and this. So a lot of the times I'm sitting listening so that I know how to approach the person. Fortunately for me, my son was like one of my best friends. When he transitioned and we was sitting amongst friends, my friend said she didn't just lose her son, she lost one of her best friends because he called her 3 times a day. It was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I never want to compare my situation to that situation, so I try to be in present in that situation and listening to what they're saying, and I try to pick out the goodness that I may hear them say, or if they are going in the left field about all the negative stuff, and I would just be like, "So give me some of the good times that you remember. Let us make sure that their legacy is something of positivity, no matter the manner that they may have transitioned. Unfortunately, I am running into a lot of mothers whose sons have been taken due to violent crime. So that's a whole nother thing. Like, were they in the streets? Were they of the street? Were they an innocent bystander? So I literally have to listen to each person's story as not to assume anything.
Yeah.
And it takes a special person. I think probably all three of us are those special people that really listen to others to really help them through that healing. So I would totally agree with you that everyone is individual and their situations are very, very individual and they should never be compared to someone else. But it is interesting that they compare themselves to other people.
Mm.
They bring in the guilt, they bring in the shame, and I love that you don't allow them to do that too long, that you
Mm.
switch that to bring in the good things.
Yes, I do. I had my aunt
Super important.
whose daughter transitioned in 2022. It's my aunt. And at this time, I was getting to the point where I didn't think I was going to be able to hold on. And I'm consoling her, and she turned to me and she said, "I just want to be strong like you was." And this my aunt, like the aunt, like you don't say too much. She love you, but you got to be careful with your mouth. And I said, "Auntie, you can't grieve the way that I grieve because you didn't have the same relationship with your daughter that I had with my son." And I said, "And don't take that wrong. You got to grieve your relationship. You don't, if you need to break down and cry
Yeah.
because you had longer with your daughter, I understand it." The crazy part is that don't ask me why. God does what he wants to do, but he never allowed me to break down in the midst of people. Now,
Mhm.
at night, when I was at home in my recliner, looking at my son's urn, or simply in bed, or trying to wake up in the morning, I'm all snot and tears.
Yeah.
But in front of people, even at his memorial service, which was in a park, people was fascinated. Like, "You rode your motorcycle?" I'm like, "Yeah, I rode my motorcycle. I'ma ride him on back to the funeral home, and we partied the way he partied." I believe that's the best way to start their legacy is to let their last appearance be who they really were. That's what helped me.
Yeah, and I resonate with, everything that you're saying as well, because I kinda did the same thing. My son's, service was a big birthday party, Powerpuff Patrol and, and all that kinda stuff, so I get it.
Yeah, we gave our fishing poles. They fished. We barbecued. They got to drink what they wanted to drink, and people was very respectful of each other. The only thing that I requested is that it was a blackout party, not because of the type of service. That was my son's favorite color, yellow and blacks.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah, yeah.
blacked out the park, and it was yellow and black. I had on a Steelers jersey and some jeans. I believe those are ways that start healthy coping skills is to be able to do your final honor of your loved one the way that you think they would have wanted it, and not the way that you want society to think they were in life. That's kinda stressful.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And you're exactly right. There's nothing better than honoring them from the very beginning.
Mm.
Sharing stories immediately, doing celebration of life or just parties is great ways. to begin that honoring and that healing that needs
Yeah,
to come
because
for sure.
people weren't looking at me, and they were coming and they were in sorrow, and they was like, "Well, hold on, let me get myself together because you not the way I thought you was gonna be."
Yeah.
And that was the only way I knew how to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So brave and strong, and those coping skills that you learned long ago, and the faith that you have. I think that's my biggest takeaway on that is such a strong faith. But
Yeah.
it gets rocked sometimes when, especially the enduring of all of those losses back to back to back to back. I mean, that rocks your faith.
Yeah, I was sitting at one of the funerals making preparations for my son's funeral. I was literally on the phone with the to step out of the funeral to talk to the insurance company. And my cousin, she was in awe to see me there. Like, you came? I'm like, yeah. I love you beyond all of this. Me appearing here is not going to bring my son back. So,
Show up for others. Yeah, I kind of. Yeah, I can see where you are.
but I didn't go to the cemetery. I was like, oh no, it's
Good for you.
knowing my limits, like knowing when and it's all about knowing your body, right? Knowing when I felt the anxiety coming up to the point where I was just going felt like I was going to explode. I was like, well, it's time for me to go. They was like, you want to repass? No, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go do this. So it's also about knowing your normal peace and your normal calm and realizing it's about to shift.
Yeah,
Being
that's some
self-aware
good.
is huge. It's hard to be like that during grief. How does someone get there when I just saw my child deceased?
All I kept saying was he was too good for this world.
Okay.
My sister, who is ordained, she opened up to me and said, I asked God, why did he take my nephew at 27, who was a good person, and waited so long to take somebody else in our family who was, and he said, because some people need longer to get it right, is what she came back. And so I said, once again, that's confirmation that it was a job well done. My son, he was tired of losing his own friends. When he turned 25, I'm an OG, and I was like, "You 25." And then I had to sit back and realize how many of his friends he was losing, and it was tearing my son apart. So once again, I just felt like God was like, this life about to get too hard for him, so let me bring him back home."
When I did your introduction, because you had sent us some information, you talked about building generational wealth,
Sure.
and speak to that. What does that mean?
So generational wealth, I am big on creating an African American culture that works well for my family because African Americans don't have a standard of culture. Some things we just weren't taught. So I go out and absorb as much information as possible. But my first step to building generational wealth is your mindset. You can give a person all the money in the world, and if they don't have the right mindset, poverty is a mindset. You'll go back to where you came from. So one of the things that I promote when it comes to generational wealth is the first thing that I say is just nothing about what's in your bank account. It's what's in your mind. It's what's in your heart. It's how you move about as a human. Do you still have the kind part of humankind within you? So to me, those are all components of generational wealth way before your bank account gets to a certain zero. And I look at it because it was a devastating something that happened in Haiti, and
Yeah.
they were confused about how the people were still dancing. They had lost everything. They was dan- and I was like, that's generational wealth. That's wealth. That's what wealth is. Also, then I start to incorporate assets, liabilities, accountability. Start talking about that. Am I a financial advisor, planner? No. But I will suggest to you going to get you a financial advisor. I will suggest to you about life insurance and what that looks like for you. I will talk about college tuition maybe being set aside for vocational training or for the startup of their own business, just to look at things differently. I will talk about credit. And when I grew up, cash was it. My dad was everything was cash. Like, and he paying full price for it. And I'm like, so I didn't think we were as poor as we were until I got to high school because my dad would pay for everything with cash. Didn't have credit.
Yeah.
And went to go buy a car and he was like, what do you mean? And so those are the parts of generational wealth. But to me, it always starts with your mind and making sure that you are mentally prepared to absorb in everything else. And then letting the next generation know that, hey, I didn't know this coming up, so I want you to know this. Or listening to the new generation because they learn stuff that we don't know and having the openness to learn from a generation that is younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
I like.
Interesting that you said that about paying cash because that's exactly what my husband did when we got married. He wanted to get me a different car. I had a Volkswagen Bug, stick shift. I could still drive a stick shift. And he was like, you need a better car than that. If you get hit, you're just going to crumble this little car. And so wanted to do the same, just go buy something. And I was the one that said, no, I had credit and I knew we wanted to eventually build a house. So it's like, no, you're not paying cash. We need you to get credit
You're right.
because, I think that's kind of what's to that kind of that generation as well. Like, just pay cash. Just pay cash. Don't ever have debt. Pay cash.
Correct.
But there needed to be a shift in that generation, the same,
Yeah.
I believe. So I'm glad that you teach all of that.
Like the aspect of kind of a holistic picture because I think we're alike in the same where you're going off that Maslow's hierarchy. I can't touch your mental stuff if you're starving, or if you're homeless. So we got to kind of baby step you, to make sure this need is taken care of, that need is taken care of, all those things. So I love that. And I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. So we're going to get to your workbook, but in your workbook, you talk about what came from that when I read the title is feeling stuck at the bottom. What is one small practical step that someone maybe listening can take to reclaim their power?
Realizing where you're at.
Self-aware.
Owning where you're at. Okay. And sometimes that's hard.
Very much so.
That's not me.
The same situation with 11 people and you're the common denominator.
Okay. I do use that all the time. I'm not gonna lie. Because I have one gentleman and I was like, okay, these 5 women have said the same 5 things about you.
Yeah.
So regardless of whatever, we're not doing what we think we are.
Correct.
Period. Period.
And one of my exercises when I go out and teach generational wealth is I have people, X 3 people in their life. Usually it's a work person, a friend, and a family member, and ask them to write a story of how they see them. And don't open it up till we get to the event. And I read it out, and I'm like, so who is this? And they like, that don't sound like nobody in here. So even though we have the best intention, sometimes that's not how it's received.
So true. Yeah. I have to do a lot of that with some women because it's like, well, my boyfriend has the best intention. His heart isn't. I was like, I'm not his therapist, I'm yours.
Yeah.
I'm not here to say if he has the best intentions or not. What you're teaching me is you don't like whatever it is he's doing.
Right.
Just because
And how are you receiving it? Why are you receiving it this way?
doesn't mean you feel like you feel love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of education.
Yeah. So
You
talking about
Yeah.
So talking about that feeling stuck at the bottom,
Mhm.
talk to us about this workbook. I mean, starting from the bottom, now I'm here. What does that mean? Like, I got a big old lots of questions. Like, what does that mean? The title, and where did it come from?
It did not come from me. Because once again, we don't see ourselves the way other people see us, right? And it's
Right.
funny that you just asked where it came from because this person just called me and I had to send a voicemail. A very close friend of mine who I deem family, we was having our monthly sister meet. And she says, I feel like I haven't supported you enough. She says, because she stays far in Missouri and I stay in Illinois. She says, I want to have an event for you. Okay. I want you to have it in Missouri. Mm, okay. I already got the title. I say, what's the title? And she gave me this title.
Mhm.
And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I remember where we started and I see where you're at now. And I had to sit with it. And I sat with it and was like, yeah, because we
Mm.
started off um, being introduced to each other in a business aspect. And now, like I just described her, she is a part of my family. So in the
Mm.
midst of it, we had a conversation. I'm like, what do you want the tone to be? And we were talking about trauma. When it comes to me speaking, I get into it. I'm always wanting to leave you with something, some homework or something. So as I'm creating the speaking points and all this stuff, and I'm going over my edits, and Chat GPT says, "Well, would you like a worksheet?"
Can you do that?
I said, "Yeah." I not knowing what it was gonna come out, right? And one of the worksheets came out, and I was like, "That's pretty cool. Let me type the rest of the stuff in here that I'm fit to say and see what's gonna happen." So it
Mm.
kicked out some worksheets that I used at the presentation and saw how it was received and how it worked. And I was like, that's just a scratch. I want people to be able to sit at home with it and get into it.
Mhm.
So that's how the workbook was titled and created. And I'm very proud of it because the first thing that I created was a journal, and it looks like this. It's a prompt journal, and asks you some questions on what to do and all that stuff. I thought I had really did my big thing because I like
Yeah, you
journaling. I
did.
want to teach people how to journal. So I took that journal and created a financial journal, generational wealth, right?
Mhm.
So, like I said, every time I do something, I want to create something for the people to take with them. This right here almost sent me over because in the midst of creating it, I'm also doing the work. And I'm also seeing myself in some of the trauma responses. I'm like, girl, now did all this study and you didn't realize that's what that was. I knew it
Mhm.
wasn't something right, but I didn't know what it was. And so I was able to put the word trauma response with something that I was doing that was not so healthy. And then I was able to connect it with coping skills and identifying skills. And I put all that in there.
Yeah, that lived experience could connects us to a lot of people because they like, "You get it, you've been there." And you're
Yeah,
like, "Absolutely, yeah, absolutely."
absolutely, absolutely. Now, the crazy part about it is, once again, it's the people accepting that the fact that what they have been, because you hear people, I've been doing this all my life. Yeah, and you've been messed up doing that all your life because this is a trauma response and it's not healthy. And you wonder why ain't
Yeah.
nobody coming to visit you because every time they come visit you, you're going off on them.
You're
Just
hurt,
because you've
you're
been doing
wounded.
it, yeah,
Yeah.
just because you've been doing it all your life doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Or
Yeah,
productive in sort of way, you
and
know?
that is the battle.
Definitely.
I'll just be like, I understand that. But you're asking me why somebody is doing this to you or why these people or why this is repeated in your life. Well, people get tired and get cussed out every time they come over your house. Or we understand that alcoholism is not the trauma, it is a trauma response. And people are tired of dealing with the response of a trauma that you ain't even bringing to the forefront or that you're bringing to the forefront and you're holding on to it because of the attention that you get.
Mhm, mhm.
So,
Yeah, there's layers to that. It could go so many different ways. Yeah, like you
so in
said,
my
depending.
book, I warn people, get a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, or a group because it,
Mm.
it can trigger some stuff.
Well, it's
There
awesome
is
that you
healing on the other side, right? Healing out loud. What does that look like?
No, without an explanation.
I love it, right? It's a period.
That's it. That's a full answer.
see.
Do you want to do this? No. Because how many times do you ask somebody, do they want to do something? They say yes, and you be like, so why you say yes? But soon as somebody tell you no, you be like, well, why you say no? Or healing
Mhm.
out loud is telling people, hey, I live with depression. And this is what my depression looks like. My depression doesn't look like me in a corner, in a closet, in a dark room. My depression looks like me cleaning up my house in 45 minutes because I'm manic, or just moving in a way that is not this. It's just and letting people see what that looked like. I was manic in 2022. I went through all those transitions and planned a whole wedding for October. And that's healing out loud and letting people know I was losing my mind. I was losing my mind. Healing out loud is
Good.
not having one face for what grief looks like, or what depression looks like, or what anxiety looks like. Allowing women to say, I'm not okay, and it's okay. So that's what healing out loud means to me.
It's okay that you're not okay.
It is.
It's okay.
It's a really good book.
It really is. It really is. It resonates. I resonate with it so much. I just love the plain language of it and just being like you said, 2 things could be going on at the same time. I can have this mental health condition and not be completely falling apart or sobbing for an hour and a half, but that doesn't mean the condition has left me. I'm finding a different way of coping that may not be the most healthiest, you
Correct.
know? Some of us do overwork and all these kind of things. I'm being productive. What do you think? You're
Yeah,
distracted.
like you tripping. And cleaned up this whole house in 45 minutes and ain't
You
ate
like,
in 3 days.
that's not healthy. I don't care. Still,
Well,
you're not healthy. Red
um,
flag.
I do have a couple more questions, but that you share. Where do people find the book? Where do they get in touch with you if they're like, "Ooh, I like this gal, like she's talking straight. I need that." Where do they find you? How do they find all of these books that you've mentioned?
So you can find me on my website. It is I am changing life coach service, no S, .com. On that website, you can purchase all of my products, which is a journal, the motivational journal, the workbook, a financial journal. I have this thing called Date Night Box. It has over 100 date night ideas in it. You can date yourself. You can date who you gonna date, or you can date while you're married. Just date. Get out the house. Do some things. Do some things that's gonna shake you up. One of them is a scavenger hunt. One of them is simply having a picnic in your backyard. Some of 'em going bowling. It's just some ideas to pitch to you. On my website, you can also book me for speaking engagements. I also host events. If you are not a website person and you love social media, you can find me on Facebook at I Am Changing Life Coach Services LLC, or on Instagram at I Am Changing.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we put all of that in the show notes. If you didn't catch it, didn't write down fast enough what all Coach T said, we'll look in the show notes. We'll have all of that there for them to grab. So, as we kind of conclude, what would you like to leave with the listeners that maybe are navigating some trauma, some grief? What would you like to share with them? What words of encouragement or wisdom?
I want everybody to know that God created everybody on purpose with a purpose. And as long as He deemed you necessary, He's going to wake you up, and you're going to continue each and every moment. Your purpose may look similar to someone else, but it is not. Who you and what you're supposed to do is specifically in you. And we are all perfect imperfections. Oh, one of the things that
Okay.
I do want to talk about that I forgot to talk about is gun safety. If you own a gun, please have a gun lock. You can usually get them from your local library, or you can just Google free gun locks in your area. That decreases the chance of your gun being stolen. It deters a thief. We have too many stolen guns out and about that are the ones who are causing the murders. Um, just get your gun locks, and if you have children in your house, please teach them gun safety.
Well, Coach T, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story, your wisdom, your incredible workbook. I can't wait to get on your website and order one of those and take a look at that. It sounds really powerful. I love it. So for our listeners, you can learn more about Coach T's work and find her workbook. Starting from the bottom now, I'm here at her website, which she shared with you. And I think probably, is it available on Amazon or just on your website?
Yes, on my website.
Perfect. That's where they need to go. So I encourage you to connect with her and explore these powerful tools that she shared with us. So thank you again for tuning in to this episode of Female Voices Life and Loss. Until next time, remember, you don't have to walk this path alone. Remember to share the episode, like, follow. Most importantly, share it with someone that could use it. So thanks again so much, Coach C, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank